Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Youth Education Summer Camp Training. Thank you guys so much for coming, and I'm so excited for you guys to learn about our students and what this program is going to look like. This is going to be about the conduct of the class schedule and how we're going to be managing the classroom and an introduction to the program. And then later, I'm going to be sending out more information about your specific role and all the different between for each different part of the summer camp, which I'm going to go into in a second. So firstly, I want to go over the goals of the summer camp. While a really big part of the summer camp is having fun and keeping our kids engaged, even though they're not in school, there's other goals we have to keep in mind. So as we're going to see in a moment, we have a pretty fun and engaging schedule that is designed to work with the in-person services in conjunction with them, so that the students are going to have a similar structure every day. This is important because having a structure provides stability, as we discussed kind of in some of our orientations. Our students go through a lot of trauma, and having that stability and is a good way to kind of counteract that feeling of transience. Um, a lot of our programming is based off of social emotional learning, which I'm going to kind of mention several times throughout this presentation. Essentially, social emotional learning covers different things like how to deal with anger and different emotions, how to talk to people, giving students confidence in their own culture and in themselves. We want to make sure they are embracing their culture. Also, as you know, this year has been especially difficult on all of us, but because community was hit especially hard by the pandemic, we want them to catch up, especially with being um, online school and not actually in person. They have faced a lot of barriers this year that have kind of blocked their learning. So we want to counteract that and help with their transition. So there have been quite a lot of barriers in 2021, and I'm going to be kind of mentioning these a lot, especially in the later parts of the presentation. So I want to keep these in mind. Some of the barriers that a lot of our students have faced this year within online learning and within our after school program has been one of the biggest ones has been distraction. A lot of our students can get really distracted. There are a lot of other kids around in their house. Someone's watching TV, loud music's playing, parents are cooking and talking. So getting students really engaged online has been barrier. However, we are working on, we're working on creating really engaging materials that distraction is not going to be as much of an issue. There is also low technological literacy in a lot of our students. A lot of the students who have come here for the first time to the United States that never really had access to the computer before. So this year has been a big learning curve on how to learn to use a computer. One of our students thought their computer was broken because they didn't know they needed to charge it because they never had to charge the computer. They just thought it was always charged. They didn't understand what a password was and why they had to keep putting it in, and they kept forgetting their password. And so low technological literacy prevented a lot of our students from going into classrooms and engaging as much as they could have before. A lot of the students also have had access issues. This might be things like not having access to Wi-Fi, not able to um, figure out how to pull up this certain activity or things like that. So access issues have also been really prevalent this year. As you guys know, we do work with a lot of immigrants and refugees, and almost entirely immigrants and refugees in our summer camp program. And that is because they do have language issues, and they end up having a lot of language issues, and they're learning English for the first time. So as they're in school and trying to communicate with their teachers, they are having a barrier and not really able to understand, and that also has filtered into being online as well. So if you think about it, all of your textbooks and a lot of the activities we do are in English, and if they don't really know English entirely yet, it can cause a lot of problems for engaging with the material. That's going to be something that we're going to be addressing as well, about how to talk with our students within the classroom. Students in the classroom, our classrooms for the summer camp are going to be a variety of English levels. So you might have some students who don't speak any English at all, and you might have students who are nearly fluent. We cater the classes to both of them, and whenever we go into breakout rooms, we kind of sort them by their English level. So as you get to know your students, you're going to be learning how to navigate that problem or that barrier that they face. Um, a lot of our students are also SIFE students, which stands for Students with Interrupted Formal Education. And that basically means that they were maybe traveling and they were in a refugee camp or didn't have access to a classroom for a certain period of time. So they might be in, sixth grade, but they might be older than actually most of the students in sixth grade because they did have that interrupted education. That's been a barrier, especially this past year, learning how to navigate online and with catching up on their own education. I mentioned earlier distractions. Part of that is definitely the large families and noise during class. Um, a lot of our students have a lot of siblings, anywhere from I don't know, 5 or 3 to like 7. So there are a lot of distractions going on in the classroom and at home that just causes a lot of noise and distraction. During the year, I remember we were sitting in an adult education meeting, and a one of our teachers brought up this video that a student had sent that shows her um, at home with like 7 kids all on their own laptops doing class in one room, which is a lot of noise that prevented them from listening in and being able to really engage with the material. So part of what we're doing is we've designed this program to really kind of catch those students up academically and making sure they're engaged and staying kind of on that academic track, even though they over the summer, even though otherwise they would not be. So this is the summer camp schedule for elementary school students. The summer program is a hybrid model, so students are going to be rotating from in-person activities to online activities. So depending on your schedule, you're either going to see a lot of students or only the same group of students. In order to participate in person, students also to participate online. Only 5 students are allowed to go in person at a time, and so the rest of them will be online. We're expecting to have at least 10 or so students in a classroom at a time, so just be prepared for that. We have broken this program into elementary age students in the morning and middle school students in the afternoon. So from 9 o'clock to 9:30, our students have reading time, and all of our students are given access to this program called LightSail, which is an online library. Students essentially take a placement test and are given access to books they can read all at their own level. They're going to spend this time on LightSail improving their reading on their own. We are going to have access to their LightSail account to see their progress and how much they're going to be reading per week. So they are going to be kind of given this time to do it on their own, and we're going to support them in that and encourage them to do it, and monitoring that and making sure they are actually reading. The rest of the slots are going to be 45 minutes long throughout the day. So under 9:30 to 10:15, you see subjects or stations. These are subject stations. Interns who are going to be running the program coming up with the lesson plans are going to be coming up with these stations and coming up with the different programming for them. So they will be running through they have different subjects through each day. So one day you might go into breakout rooms with students doing math games and vocabulary games or science activities or experiments. Depending on the students that are present, you might actually be repeating these activities you did before if some students weren't able to do them. Depending on the intern and how many students we have, you might go into breakout rooms to do these, or you might go and do it in the main classroom and have it more all hands on deck. So from 10:15 to 11 o'clock, we have a social emotional learning lesson. This lesson is going to cover a variety of topics, like I mentioned earlier, things like celebrating diversity and community engagement and different emotions, mindfulness, kind of things that are important for students to know as they grow up and they learn how to kind of navigate the world they're living. Um, and that is going to kind of go off we have a whole curriculum for social emotional learning that the interns are going to have access to. I'm going to be creating those lessons off of it. And I'm going to be going into that in more detail tomorrow afternoon, or in a later training, reporting. And from 11 o'clock to 11:45, we're going to be having a games and play segment. The games and play segment is going to be a time for kind of more unstructured time where we just kind of get to play with students. So these might be things like doing a freeze dance, or doing hangman, or doing one of those little dance lessons that we have online as well. So it's going to be a variety of games for students to play. From 11:45 to 12:30 is going to be enrichment. Enrichment period is a really amazing period. I'm really excited about it. Nashville, we have partnered up with a lot of different organizations in Nashville that are kind of going to be working on, that are going to be coming in and teaching our students. So one day during the in-person segment of this enrichment time, all the students are going to be doing this enrichment activity with the partner. So for example, if it's going to be the Children's Theater, which is one of our enrichment partners, the Children's Theater is going to show a play or do something, or maybe teaching them how to make puppets or some sort of activity with them in person. And then the rest of the week, we're going to be doing activities that kind of build off of it. So like I said, if, for example, the Children's Theater activity is they go and watch a play at the Children's Theater, then the rest of the week, the an online camp, the students are going to be doing learning how to do puppets, or maybe they are doing a skit activity, or a role-playing activity, or they're going to come up with a storyline and a storyboard. These are some activities that they could be doing with a specific enrichment partner. So you're going to be kind of participating in that and helping run those activities. Finally, from 12:30 to 1:30, we have this lunch and social hour at home. So for in-person students, it's going to be students who are transitioning back to going home through their cars. And for us, for the online program, we are opening up that hour for students to kind of hang out and be together, maybe all eating lunch together, just kind of an unstructured time if they choose to. Volunteers and interns, we haven't necessarily assigned anyone to this schedule, but we would love for you to join our students in that time. This is the summer camp schedule for the middle school. It's essentially going to be the same schedule. It's just kind of flipped. The last two are flips. You're going to start out with the lunch/social hour at home, and then ending with the reading from 4:30 to 5:30. All of these lessons are going to be, all these different stations are going to be essentially the same thing as elementary school, just slightly elevated for the middle school level. So maybe more advanced language, more detailed topics, something that's a little more sensitive entering that SEL section. Maybe having more hands-on activities, something that's a little more in depth for middle school age students than elementary school age students. So we have done these online programs for about this entire time during the pandemic. Since I've been here, I arrived in September. We had all of our different activities, and SNASA after school program was online. We have noticed a lot of things and learned from a lot of it. So we are here to help you, and I'm going to kind of go over what to expect from our students while they are at home, kind of participating online. So there are going to be potential distractions that are going to be interrupting. I mentioned earlier having a lot of other students and a lot of our siblings around, and a lot of loud noises and distractions, and siblings playing games and wanting to go play outside. or doing things like that. And one way that we have kind of found that helps with that, all the distractions of the siblings who are running around, is letting the siblings come and play with us, letting them join our activities. Um, and then we also have had the problem before of families saying, "I'm going to the market, come with me," or "Come do the dishes." Let the students go and let them help their family, but always try to have them come back and rejoin the program afterwards. Um, Finally, we also have other technology as a distraction as well. So there are the people in the household, maybe if a sibling is watching TV or there's music playing and it's hard for the students to hear. So that is going to be trying to create engaging activities, and once again, bringing those other siblings in to join those activities, and um, trying to be really, really engaging and having fun. That they have to kind of always focus. As much as you can get students to walk around, to move, to hold something, to really be engaged in a physical way, as well as just watching, the more engagement you're going to be getting. So finding ways to kind of incorporate that into planning. There is also going to be some technological difficulties as well, which is to be expected. So there is some Zoom confusion. Over the past year, we did a lot of things like um, playing Hangman and doing annotate on the screen, and how to message and all these different kind of confusing parts of Zoom. And I'm going to be sending you guys videos on how to do some of that stuff, so that I'm going to be linking in the Zoom instructional videos um, onto the Schoology site. So be sure to look at that as well. There's also going to be poor internet connection a lot of the times. So for students that are on in their own homes, they might have a lot of people on the same Wi-Fi network, or they don't have Wi-Fi at all, and so they encounter issues with connecting via their online um, via the internet, the Wi-Fi. Sometimes audio doesn't work on their computers, so if they leave and come back every once in a while. There's a whole variety of Zoom things I'm sure you guys have all experienced. So we have kind of figured out a good way to solve it, but it is still a challenge. If this is an issue, have the host of the Zoom meeting send you and the student into a breakout room and try to solve it through them, try to work with them to figure out what's going on, fix the audio, fix the internet connection, try to learn and teach them how to do certain things on Zoom. Those breakout rooms are going to be really, really key. So as I mentioned earlier, we have been kind of navigating this over the past year through the after school program. So I asked our after school coordinator to give some advice about what she has learned for being online over the past year, and I gave my own as well. So Nisha Chetri is going to be one of the staff that's going to be in person here. So she's going to be a lifeline for you all. And she's going to be really, really helpful, and one of the people you're going to communicate with if you ever have any questions. So Nisha is going to be there for you and navigate some of these issues that you might have if you ever encounter them. So her advice that she gave was to get to know all the students. It's one of the most important things you can do in the classes. As much time as possible, like really kind of having these discussions and fun warm-up questions that have been really, really useful, and getting to know them and forming a relationship with those students is going to be key. It's really important that you are on time a few minutes before students, and you should realize that being online, you should be going slow. I know that if you are in the schedule, I'm going to flip back to that page really fast. Oh, if you're in the morning for elementary school, and if you're coming in at 9:30, you can be there early, because some students might be there even earlier than 9:30. Some students might show up at 9:45 and want to have extra time to talk to you. One of the students that we worked with in the NASA after school program, wanted to have extra time working in math. So we all showed up, teachers and I, all the other teachers and him showed up 15 minutes early, and we gave him extra time working individually on math and on English vocab. So using that extra time that we have to kind of engage them even more. If you are in one of those like kind of middle sections, like the enrichment um, or the games, you could be early, but also just remember that at 9:45 that station changes. So you might be coming in the middle of a station. So just be cognizant of that as well, and maybe be like kind of right on time or a minute early on those. Um, and if you are going to be a volunteer or a intern who's going to be kind of leading those throughout the day and on several of those stations, be sure to kind of create that downtime, that structured downtime in between while we have new volunteers coming in, and kind of playing a short game in that time, giving the students to transition and kind of re-engage, especially maybe after like the lesson or something like that, that might be taking up more, maybe more listening and not as much focusing. So maybe doing a dance video on how to do a certain of the dances that we have access to when we send you those as well. And then for me, the advice I have given is these are some of the most amazing students and excited students to learn. But they are also kids, and so they're easily distracted. Um, Finding things that make the youth excited to be a part of the program are really, really important. It's important to get to know those students and creating lessons that kind of excite them. So if a student like loves elephants, then have the students write a story about an elephant. Or, if a student really loves pizza, do a game where they have to come up with a fun pizza flavor or something like that. Come up with a really, really exciting lesson that is catered to the students' interest as you get to know them. And also, we want to make sure we have students get involved and invested in the decision-making process. We love to have student leadership. That's a really, really big thing. And making sure to include that in your different sections. Once again, flipping back to the schedule. So maybe having the students lead a game or having students come up with a game they like to play. Maybe a students deciding which subject they want to do for stations, having them talk about something in a lesson. And in the after school program on Mondays, we did student-led days. So if a student was really engaged throughout the week, they would come in on Monday and talk about something they were really passionate about. And sometimes, students weren't prepared for that and they kind of forgot. But other times, students also have talked about something really amazing and had some really wonderful discussions. Ask the students to lead. They are invested in their program and this growth as well. So make sure to kind of get them involved in that planning process. You can have time and you're like, okay guys, on Thursday, you're like, okay guys, we're going to be taking this last 15 minutes of class, and I'm going to ask you, what's something you really want to do next week? What do you like really want to play? Is there a game you want to play? Is there something that you want to kind of explore more of that we haven't been able to do? What do you all want to do? So I'm going to go on to the classroom management section of this presentation. Just so you all know, before I kind of do this, there is something that's really important for me to say. This is going to be a lot about behavior management in students, but I want to make sure you all know that we have, as far as when I've been involved, there has not really been a really big issue with behavior and bullying and arguing online. Most of the issues that we have encountered have been distractions, and a lot of students who aren't confident talking online. So I'm going to kind of give you guys some tools for that. But I will say, like, a lot of it's going to be how to kind of I don't know, steer people in the right direction if they are being mean or being not very polite or being aggressive to teachers. it's a different kind of experience being online because you're not going to be in that classroom. And while there might be some students that are more aggressive than otherwise, most are tend to be really good and really well behaved. So just keep that in mind, and have reasonable expectations. I don't think we're going to be using a lot of these, but you never know. These are some of the common issues in the classroom. Um, a lot of these are not going to be as relevant in the online classroom, and we're going to go through all of them anyways. So one of the ones that is going to be really more common in the classroom are the distractions. Um, like I said, I've said before, like they are going to be in their own homes doing this, and so there's going to be other people and siblings and noises. So there's going to be a lot of distractions, and your students is going to be not engaged sometimes. So in order to kind of combat that, we want to have like the most interactive lessons as possible. These are young children, and they a lot of times don't really want to just be sitting and watching a lesson. They might be doing that, and we can do that, but the more we can get physical movement, getting discussion, getting something to get them really really engaged and plugged in to what's happening on screen, is going to be more effective. So having the cameras on to make sure that they're actually being engaged, and coming up with games that they have to play or an activity they have to do, or having to go find something in a house and come back and show you, or all these different activities that we could do that would get students really really hands-on in the classroom. That is our goal. As few distractions as possible. um, Outside, as many interactions as are going to be outside of the class. We want to have even more something even more engaging going on inside the class. There's also, bullying as it's definitely an issue, and fighting. Those two things are a lot harder to do online because you're online, you're in a kind of a separate environment and kind of in a safe space anyways, you're online. But every once in a while there are like some snarky remarks. And I think it's just important to kind of point out and correct that behavior, and some of the things and using some of the methods I'm going to be talking about in the next couple of slides. It's once again, it's not as much of an issue being online, but it still is there. There's also being off task. Once again, that kind of goes next to getting distracted on things. Maybe if they are going to go play soccer or something while it's technically being logged in and not actually there, that's being off task. So once again, finding really, really engaging and activities, keeping that camera on if possible. If the student does not want to have a camera on, we can't make them have a camera on, but we do want to highly encourage it. Lack of preparation is also something that can create a lot of distractions and common issues in the classroom. We want our students to be as engaged as possible, and I mentioned earlier, kind of having that transition time between different subjects. And so we want to make sure it's a structured time. So even though if you ever been on a Zoom meeting, they might have, okay, 5 minutes of deep breathing or doing these different yoga poses. That can be a really great thing, but also doing the yoga poses together, or saying, okay, we're going to take a 5-minute bathroom break and we're going to come back, or doing a dance class in between to keep people moving and prepared during that structured downtime. And this is once again with excess downtime. Inconsistency is the same thing I just said, but lack of preparation can also fall into that. In addition to just lack of preparation in classes. If you are not prepared for the full amount of class, there's going to be an awkward amount of time with nothing to do, and you don't really know what you're doing and what students are going to be doing. And so therefore it's just going to kind of create some chaos. Poorly used space, once again, not really an issue online, considering we're on the computer screen. But just using everything you have to be as engaging as possible. Lack of quality. This is going once again with all those things. The higher quality material you have, the less distracted and the more engaged students are going to be. So always, always, always have quality. And then transitions, once again, kind of going with that downtime inconsistency. Making sure that with transitions, you're not losing any students in boredom or not getting engaged. And then lack of clear expectations. One thing I would highly recommend is during those first couple of classes, kind of really set out some class rules and even asking students what they think the class rules should be. Um, Having really clear expectations and making sure that they follow it. One of the clear expectations we have for this program is if you do not come to the online one, you will not be able to come in person at all, period. And that is the expectation. If you break the expectation, you're not going to be going in person. Um, and there is also miscommunication. So just make sure you're very, very clear. These are ESL students. Use simple words, be very clear with your directions. So like I said before, I'm talking a little bit about acting out as for youth. It is definitely less of an issue as it could be with these specific behaviors we're going to be talking about for attention-seeking behavior and power struggles because we are going to be online, but it still is definitely can happen. So there are emotional insecurity and power struggles. So students use power struggles and competition to feel really secure. So if they might feel like they don't have control in some parts of their lives, they might be using power by trying to gain control of a situation, trying to, I don't know, not necessarily act out any attention seek, but kind of use challenging the teachers and the instructors in order to kind of gain that control in their lives. And this might encourage other students to act up too. So just be cognizant of that as well. It usually has nothing to do with the actual instructor, and usually it's more of the simply it's just using that to feel more secure. A lot of our students do have a pre-existing trauma. So I mentioned this in the orientation as well, but students do experience a hypervigilance and and as a response to growing up amidst like a lot of corruption and oppression, and this causes like ineffective relationship building and often means that students are going to act out in order to defy authority figures. Um, this trauma is something we kind of try to work through a lot in our classes through these social emotional lessons. You want to make sure the students have tools and are equipped to deal with a lot of these things they're feeling inside. So we do try to teach our students to act accordingly. We do also have a lot of negative attention-seeking behavior. So it refers to when children use misbehavior or self-harm as a way of getting attention from adults. In education, this is negative attention, such as being called down or disciplined. When students act out, they're often willing to engage in negative behaviors, so they don't have access to positive adult education. So they just receive negative adult education to supplement that. Therefore, there's like replacement behavior in situations to kind of find ways to open up relationship building, give them positive attention whenever possible. Find time to spend with the student that is positive and reinforces really good behavior. Planned and ignoring, which is like just not paying any attention to any negative attention seeking behavior, and redirection can be used in most situations. Teach a child they're positive to get the right kind of attention. So what do we do? These are some of the examples we can do. So firstly, there is Q-tip. Quit taking it personally. Negative behavior is rarely because of an instructor, and typically that negative behavior is because of something going on at home or something else the student isn't happy with, leaking out into their other relationship with you, their instructor, and other students. Not really because I don't like you, I promise. We can also be prepared for misbehavior by learning the best ways to react to it, like right now. Be consistent, making sure that all students are treated fairly and with a punishment. Be self-reflective, like the golden rule. Treat others the way that you want to be treated. Build relationships with students. The better relationships you have, the more they're going to be listening to you. And build investment. Invest in their success, and they're going to be investing in their own success and going to be acting much more light. Always be sure to watch your reactions. We don't accidentally want to look disappointed or angry. We always want to positively react and encourage positive behavior. If we negatively react to something or yell or look upset, it's going to kind of bring out the worst in a student, and it's better to just encourage that positive behavior. We also love positive interventions. We love rewarding good behavior and not challenge misbehavior. I mentioned earlier that our students did a student-led day. So that what we, in order to lead on a Monday, on that student-led day, they had to come to after school every day the last week. They had to engage and be a really, really good student. So those positive interventions are ways that we can do are ways that we can do that, and always encouraging good behavior. We also want to spend time with the student to model good behavior. Always model good behavior, model good grammar, speak slowly, be polite, and the student's going to be doing the same thing because they're mirroring us. We also always want to use our approved interventions, which I'm going to be going over on this slide. So we have a lot of proven positive interventions that we use with our students. Some of them are things like positive reinforcement, which I'm sure a lot of you guys know about. That's more of encouraging positive behavior by rewarding good behavior. So if a student is actively engaged in the lesson and um, did all their homework and did all the reading and has been doing really, really well, or is actively actually listening and engaging, reward that. Say, good job, I'm so glad that you've done this. I'm so proud of you. Like, you're doing so well. Positively reinforce that and give them more leadership responsibilities in the class. We also have planned ignoring. So this would be something like ignoring the student that is misbehaving. If the student is, only doing it if you use your discretion. If a student is acting out because they want negative attention, don't give them any attention and they won't react anymore. Also, we have redirection, which is minimizing attention to the challenging behavior, and then providing a clear description of the behavior that is expected from the child. So if a student is interrupting and kind of taking other people's turns from presenting or talking or things like that. Say, you can ask to talk next. You can raise your hand next. Or we wait for others to finish speaking before we speak ourselves. And then provide positive attention or feedback once they do that. And make sure they know that's the good behavior. There are also verbal or nonverbal cues that go along with positive reinforcement. Knowing and recognizing good behavior is not only a verbal thing, not only saying good job, but also throughout body language. If there's ever a disagreement between students, take the students into a breakout room, discuss the issue openly, and resolve the issue by discussing with you as a moderator. Or if a student is just acting out in general in the classroom, take them to a breakout room and talk with them independently, and kind of wait for the other students to see what's going on. If it gets to a point where a student is continuously interrupting, you can give them disciplinary action. Firstly, do a verbal warning. That would be let them know, if you do this again, you are going to be I'm going to call your parents. And then if you do it a second time, you're going to be suspended from program for a couple of days. If you do it again, then you're not going to be in the program at all. And then once again, privately, not publicly. And within that as well, as a volunteer, if you notice this behavior, let your intern know. And if you're an intern, let the supervisors know. We'll take care of it. So these are some of these strategies that we can use to promote good classroom behavior. So these are social skills instruction. That is that social emotional learning component. We also have relationship building strategies. Once again, we also include that in social emotional learning, but that's also just getting to know other students. Behavior reduction techniques. There's a lot of those things we talked about, just positive behavior enforcement. Group-oriented management systems. learning how to communicate as a group and how to kind of conduct that with everyone together. Self-management interventions is kind of teaching how to control that when you're upset. That is also taught in social skills. And antecedent-based interventions, just all the interventions that can cover a variety of different situations. So I'm also going to be talking about volunteer responsibilities. This is going to kind of be the last part of this presentation. It's important that you guys understand what you're going to be responsible for as interns and volunteers with different responsibilities. Interns, you're going to have a much more in detail responsibilities intern description of a lot of your responsibilities as far as planning classes. But volunteers, this is what you're going to be getting. It's going to be this one, and it's going to be a description, kind of part of that larger intern recording. So you're learning about what specifically that you need to do in the class. So volunteers, you are going to be helping to lead classes and conduct different activities. Interns are going to kind of be leading those classes and coming up with activities and facilitating conversation. You're going to be assisting them with that. They're going to be kind of come up with a lesson plan. You're going to help enact that, and the interns are going to kind of let you know what you need to do. That's going to be a lot of communication, and I would recommend interns speaking out to your volunteers at least every day and every day they're coming, and maybe sending out a lesson plan of the week and how you want to have the volunteers kind of work with the students. We also have volunteers that are going to be engaging with the students on a personal level. And interns are going to be doing that as well. But this is going to be kind of your primary responsibility, volunteers. When you're in the classroom, like I said, you want to make sure that our students are really engaged and plugged in. And so if you ever have any suggestions or anything like that, this is kind of the place where you can do that. If the student ever has any problems like a tech problem, understanding a material problem, or a language barrier, you're going to kind of be mitigating that with them and going into breakout room and solving those issues, like I mentioned earlier. For interns, a big part of your responsibility is going to be planning engaging activities and lessons. That is going to be one of the most important aspects of your job, is making sure that those activities are really engaging, and you're going to be leading those and conducting those activities and facilitating those conversations you come up with. We are here to support you, and we have our youth team who's going to be there to back you up. And if you ever want to meet with them about how to plan something, if anything like that, you can do that. Interns are also going to be working with staff to ensure that this program is really cohesive and that they're working together in order to accomplish and learn from these activities. So volunteer responsibilities. This is for, of course, volunteers and interns as well, but it's under responsibilities. They're going to be supervising a group of students through various activities and stations. I mentioned this earlier. It's going through our entire schedule. You're going to kind of be supervising them, making sure that they are paying attention and being engaged. There's also the observing behavior management practices, which we went over earlier. And if any students are misbehaving, let NICE staff know. You're also going to be creating a welcoming, positive, and safe environment for each student. These are amazing students. So make sure that they feel engaged and wonderful and safe, and creating that kind of space for them to be who they want to be, even though they're online. You also be leading station-based activities like reading, writing, STEM, and social emotional activities. So coming up with engaging lessons and making sure that students are fully engaged. That's the best word I can do. Fully invested in that activity, and coming up with ways to teach it, lessons that are applicable and interesting. Participate in all activities you're a part of. We want to have your camera on all the time. We want to have you speaking to our students. The more that you speak and you get them to speak, and the more comfortable you are, and the more kind of jokey you are, the more they will be too. Finally, let me know or the staff as soon as possible if you're going missing a class. If you're going to be out on vacation for a certain amount of time, let me know so we can find a substitute for you. If you end up like having to leave early for some reason, let us know. We could figure it out. It's important that we do though, because um, because it because we can kind of change the lesson plan based on who's going to be there. To kind of some more expectations, we want you to be on time. I mentioned this earlier, being on time is really important. If you are on those the beginning parts, so if you're on the station section, be there about 15 minutes early if you can. It's just nice to be there for the students when they come in. Um, and otherwise just be right on time. Be a role model for your students. Always kind of model the correct behavior. If you model the right behavior, they're going to follow suit. Stay engaged with their students at all times. Um, we want you to be engaged, as if you're engaged, and the students will be too. Use positive, restorative language at all times. Always speak to the students using uh, really good positive language and rewarding good behavior. I mentioned this earlier. And follow all those positive discipline guidelines that I mentioned earlier as well. Um, this says the complete incident forms is needed. That if that is going to be an issue, that will be an intern responsibility. And interns, you can always talk to your staff supervisors if there is a behavioral issue. All right, I mentioned this in the orientation as well, but we are a mandatory reporting state. Interpartner violence, child abuse, behavior abuse. You don't have to call, but you can let us know if you suspect anything. We have connections to people and organizations, non-uniformed officers who deal with abuse, counseling centers, parenting centers, etc. If you feel led, you can report it yourself. So here are the instructions to do that. I also have access to the information, and so do your supervisors. You can fill out a report online, but when we fill out a report, we will do a pre-phone call to kind of explain the context of it, write a report, and submit it as an online version. If we can provide the context, it might help keep kids with their family when the family may just need to be culturally aware of abuse and what's considered abuse in the United States. We have had this issue before, and so this does happen. It's really important that you kind of let us know. We do take a culturally kind of appropriate response to some of this abuse, understanding differences in language and having these conversations with a translator or a community leader is going to be really, really important. So just let us know if you do suspect child abuse, and we will take care of it. And otherwise, you can report it yourself. All right, everyone, thank you so much for coming. This is the end of the kind of introduction training. I am going to be sending out, you are going to also be receiving the next portion of this as well. For interns, you're going to receive all of the classes and what that's going to be what that's going to look like to prepare. For other volunteers, depending on your station, on what you're going to be doing, I'm going to kind of give you a brief overview of what that looks like. And it's going to be found on Schoology. So that'll be uploaded soon, and look for that so you know what to expect in the classroom. A lot of this is going to be a communication. So if you ever have any questions, reach out to me, reach out to the youth staff, reach out to the interns, and we'll work through it to figure it out. We are a very collaborative environment, and we love to have collaboration and an open-ended discussion. Thank you.